Theon Greyjoy is one of the most tragic characters in Game of Thrones. What he goes through is truly appalling, and he doesn't deserve it at all. I think this speaks to a wider conversation about our lack of empathy towards survivors of abuse, especially male survivors, but also most people not really understanding trauma or how to handle it. My name is Zarina Matcha, and you're watching The Rational Female. If you enjoy my content, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel. Now, Theon is obviously no angel. His betrayal is a huge reason for why Robb and Catelyn Stark were murdered, and in the early seasons he behaves rashly and makes one bad decision after the next. This results in his capture from Ramsay Bolton and the unbearable torture he experiences for the next few seasons. He really should have listened to Maester Luwin when he told him to take the black. I think that if Theon had joined the Night's Watch, he would have been fine. I doubt that Jon Snow would have killed him. Maybe just punched him in the face of it. Now, we have to look at why Theon betrays Robb. In the book, The Clash of Kings, we see Theon's point of view and how torn he is between his loyalty to the Starks and wanting to prove himself to his father. His father and sister are not compassionate towards him when he first goes to the Iron Islands, and they basically make him choose between them, who treat him like a stranger, and the people who raised him. His dad shows no genuine care, love, or respect towards his son. Meanwhile, Ned Stark welcomed Theon and treated him like his own. It's easy to point to Theon and say, how could you betray the people who loved you? But Theon was wrestling with an identity crisis. Being a child can be a scary and overwhelming time, especially if you are uprooted from your birth family. What happened to him wasn't his fault, yet he is blamed for supposedly abandoning his family when he didn't actually do anything wrong. There is no acknowledgement from his father or Yara of his suffering, his angst, or his lack of choice in the matter. He was a child. Theon doesn't really have a stable identity. He's not really a Stark, nor is he accepted by the Greyjoys. He doesn't get a direwolf, and in the first episode remarks that there are 5 direwolves, one for each Stark child. Even Jon Snow the Bastard gets a direwolf. So this leads to Theon's inevitable betrayal. I think it's less about his desire to be malicious and more about his desire to seek his father's approval. Children have an innate desire to seek approval from their parents. When a parent rejects a child, that is traumatic. This leads to an unstable identity and self-image. Later, Theon is captured and tortured by Ramsay Bolton. He is physically mutilated and stripped of his identity. It's incredibly disturbing to watch. You've got to be a really messed up person to think that it's acceptable for someone to be tortured like this. Ramsay is the most evil character in the show, in my opinion, and I absolutely loved his death so much. Theon is directly affected by Ramsay's cruelty, and what strikes me very shockingly is how no one really seems to care. Now, Yara does go back to rescue Theon, and I did love her for doing that. She's the only person who actually shows any compassion for Theon, but how she treats him later is very unempathetic. When she and Theon are in a tavern, Yara openly flirts with other women in front of Theon and makes subtle and sensitive comments about how some of us still like it. I find this unnecessary because it's subtly mocking someone who has been physically castrated and traumatized in the way that Theon has been. I understand that it's subtle and meant to be humorous, but it doesn't feel necessary. In my experience, most people are like Yara in that when someone has been through something shocking, they usually can't relate and they just feel awkward, so they just make some inappropriate joke or offhand comment because they can't empathize with what the person has gone through. Most people don't suffer from PTSD or complex PTSD. When one has been heavily traumatized, others around us often react with this very blank look like they have no idea what to say. This is why a lot of people don't bother opening up about their personal struggles. Sometimes they feel like there's just no point. In season 8, Theon goes back to rescue Yara from capture, and she headbutts him. Again, she really didn't need to do that. The show is set in a time period where people didn't really understand mental illness or PTSD. I get that, but she could have just given him a very cold thank you. There was no need for her to headbutt him, especially when he's just come back to rescue her. Theon jumped into the water when he saw Yara held by Euron because he is traumatized. He has what I would describe as a panic attack. Panic disorder is terrifying. I can personally attest to this, and most people have no experience with this and don't know what it's like to have panic attacks, so they don't know how to react. If you see an otherwise composed person break down and collapse or start screaming or just freeze, the default is to have no idea what to do. This can cause the person having panic attacks to feel apologetic, like they have done something wrong and they need to apologize for behavior that isn't actually their fault. It's just a learned psychological response to trauma and severe anxiety. Sansa is also severely abused, but she is viewed more sympathetically by others. I fully understand why Sansa and Jon Snow are furious with Theon. After all, from their perspective, he killed their family. But a lot of the other characters also do terrible things, such as Daenerys, and there doesn't seem to be as much disdain towards them. I can't help but wonder, if Theon was a woman, would people sympathize more with him? I would say yes. We tend to downplay male suffering and don't really care about men who are in pain. This is why female genital mutilation is taken far more seriously than male genital mutilation. Theon should have killed the Night King. When he charged at the Night King, I honestly wanted to cry. It was a wonderful redemption arc, and I do wish that he had gotten to kill the Night King as a mark of dignity and honor to his character and what he goes through as one of the most abused characters on the show. Older generations have the attitude that you should repress certain feelings. Religions often teach people to repress taboo thoughts, and it's no wonder that we hear of so many religious priests molesting children. I'm of the view that repression is quite dangerous, and it's no way to handle your problems. If you are dealing with trauma or mental illness, ignoring it or suppressing it will not make it go away. We are fortunate to live in a time where there is accessible help, and people have become more aware about mental illness. Advances in science, psychology, and a move away from religion have made people more reasonable in some contexts. Instead of repressing so-called taboo or negative emotions, it's healthier to work through them and find a safe way to express them. This is called sublimation, which is about channeling taboo, dangerous, or unacceptable behaviors into something healthy. Sport, creativity, cooking, therapy, all this stuff is very useful and can save lives. For me, making YouTube videos and writing is a massive form of sublimation. If a man has the urge to cheat on his wife but doesn't actually want to do it, telling him to just repress his desire is not going to help. What would help is him talking through it with someone close to him or finding a way to work through the desire. I think that channeling your dark thoughts elsewhere can help you process them. Keeping in dark thoughts is how we end up with people becoming addicts or taking their own life. There is a saying in AA, you're only as sick as your secrets. A lot of people become alcoholics and just drink for years with literally no one noticing because of being told to repress their feelings and traumas and just not express them to anyone. Repressed emotions and thoughts also tend to come out in dreams. Nightmares are the subconscious mind processing severe unresolved trauma. In Louise Perry's book, The Case Against the Sexual Revolution, which I did a video on, she talks about repression as a virtue, and this made me very angry. Repression is not a virtue. Repression makes something grow stronger. People who haven't had an addiction or don't have severe trauma don't understand how dangerous this is. A psychologist would never tell someone to repress something. You have to process it and work through it. People choose not to act on certain behaviors because of consequences, and we usually don't want those consequences to affect us. This isn't necessarily repression, it's more the ability to channel the thought into something else, take action and do something else. I don't repress my desire to drink alcohol. I work through it through talking to others, which is why at present I don't feel the need to drink alcohol. It's not magic, it's just rewiring the brain. We need to teach people how to manage behavior in a healthy way, rather than saying that natural human desires and instincts are sinful. If Theon Greyjoy had been brought up in modern society, he would be able to work through his trauma with a therapist and would be taught some healthy coping skills to move past what has happened to him. Although modern society doesn't really care about men suffering at all, so maybe that's not true. Repression helps nobody. Repressed rage leads to serious psychological problems. You have to take the negative feelings or thoughts and channel them elsewhere. I have published many books, and a lot of them deal with mental illness and dark taboo subjects. This is quite therapeutic for me, and it helps me a lot. I love being creative. I love art. No one should have to suffer like Theon. Let's encourage healthy behavior, not unhealthy behavior. Do let me know your thoughts on this below. For regular essays critiquing feminism, follow my Rational Female Substack. Link is available here or in the description below. To support the channel further, consider buying me a coffee via this link. Your support really helps me out a lot.